Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a podcast all about wrestling. In this corner, an author and a black belt, Kibbles.
Kibbles? What kind of name is that?
Pookie the Wolf is the best.
I forgot my copies.
And in this corner, Pookie the Wolf.
Pookie the Wolf is one of the best.
Welcome to the Kibbles and Pookies Squared Circle.
So yeah, basically what I wanted to do here was do a...
Wait, let's do an intro.
That's what I was going to do just
okay,
now.
okay. You know what I was going to say to you? Would you have any interest in doing, like, not that we do it every episode, but would you have any interest in doing fantasy booking?
No, yeah, I would love to talk about
because
all that.
I saw this these guys, I forget what the name of the channel is off the top of my head, but they do like once a month they do a YouTube episode where they take either something that didn't happen or something that did happen, and they take two of the people and they book the same thing, and then they let like obviously we don't have it, but like then they're like, who do you think booked it better? Like the one I was watching was they did the twice in a lifetime. So they were like, if you had to rebook Rock versus Cena and do the twice in a lifetime, how would you do it instead?
It's not. That's one of the situations where it's not going to be hard to make better.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And I was like, oh, that's actually like that was the first time I had seen two people go like against each other in a fantasy booking scenario, and I was like, that's actually a really cool concept.
Well, with this, I'd love to talk about. And then, like, I'll put it up on my channel. We could do the bean sprout thing. But, like, even just predictions, just your opinions on stuff. Because I know, especially with wrestling, especially lately, or just in general the internet, people could have different opinions. Like I really don't like Roman Reigns. Not like I hate him. I just don't see what all the hype is about.
See, I like Roman Reigns. I like Roman Reigns in his current gimmick.
There's a lot of and that's the thing that I wanted to talk about.
I'm the one, I'm the needle mover, I'm the head of the table. Like
Yeah.
I like this because I feel like with a heel persona, even though like he is essentially being shoved down our throats, I don't feel like he is being shoved down our throats when he's a heel. Like I feel like he's supposed to.
No. I get that in that concept. I'm like, okay, I get what you mean there because it's.
I will say
it
this.
is supposed to be.
I will say this. The thing that bothers me is that I was looking at their new Bloodline shirt or whatever, and it says, "We the ones," and I was like,
that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Like, wait.
So yeah,
and dude, I swear to God, because I noticed it when I was watching Day One, the Usos against the New Day, and I was like, does that say "We the ones"? And I'm like, no, because like they keep turning, so like I can't see their back clearly, and I'm like, I must be misreading this. That's not good English.
So wait, hold on. We didn't really start off with. Let me explain. So this is going to be a podcast where you and me, and I don't know if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Bean Sprout, I do a podcast about whatever. We had at one point Kibbles on, and we do talk about a lot of wrestling. I myself, as of this last year, got back into wrestling. Don't know why, and I probably know why, but I'll explain.
Doesn't even matter how hard you try.
Stop it. But the point is that when I started in my opinion, I found myself really annoyed with stuff and wanting to complain about stuff. Now, I don't know who I'm going to have for my co-host now. Right now, AJ was, but I think AJ, just give him a little break. Like I said, I don't know who's going to be
in
the
I'm
next
taking
one.
that shit over, too.
Well, hold on. I don't know who is going to be able to do it, but point is that I wanted to do a podcast about wrestling and just predictions, your opinions on stuff, just me and Kibbles, and anyone can put in the comments in the other platforms or in my channel about how they feel. They might disagree with me. I'm going to not hold back. And if it's my opinion and it's Kibbles' opinion, and whether you like it or not, it's our opinions. You know, there's going to be people who don't agree with what we I might not agree with what Kibble says. Might not agree with what I say, and that's fine because when it comes down to it, it's still enjoyable to watch. I'd rather have multiple views, different views on wrestling, than not have wrestling at all. You know what I mean? Like if someone said, "Well, how about we just take WWE away and AEW away?" I'm like, "No, that's not what I want. I don't want them both to be gone. I just think things can be criticized for what they're doing." And I think a lot of it's when I thought about it, it was because I was listening to a lot of Jim Cornette, which he has
that guy.
he has experience when it comes to it. He has experience when it comes to, like, he's been with everybody, you know.
Yeah, I feel like with Jim Cornette that I have certain things that I'm like, okay, yeah, and then there's a lot of other
Yes.
like a lot of other stuff
I agree.
where I'm like,
I agree.
the fuck is wrong
And I
with
think
you?
it's because you and me were born in a different era of wrestling than he did.
So like here's the thing, right? Like so like maybe you're different. But for me, when I started watching, it was the end of the Attitude Era. Like a lot of people a lot of people my age will like reference the like talk about the Attitude Era, but like for me, I started watching in like 2000, which was like kind of the last year or two of the Attitude Era.
Mhm.
Like WCW was basically bought out within maybe 18 months of me watching when I started watching, and then after that they did the invasion angle and it transitioned into ruthless aggression. So like yes, I've gone back. I've watched a lot of Attitude Era stuff. I love. There's a lot of stuff I like about it, and a lot of stuff I don't like about the Attitude Era. But like childhood and my childhood and growing up is more entwined with the ruthless aggression.
Right before the end.
Yeah. So like when people talk about like, oh yeah, remember stuff, like some of my first memories are like, oh yeah, there was the brand split. Like that's one of the first things I
Well,
remember.
this is good to start off with because I wanted to start off with where we came into it and
Yeah.
where we started, because I think a lot of it's the concept of where do we stand on stuff, or where did we get started on wrestling, and why do we like wrestling, and maybe talk about in this episode just the big things of this year that happened. Because I think a lot of it's funny, a lot of it's very good for I think the brand of wrestling as a whole. But I just wanted to talk about where we were at when we first started, because with me, I don't know if you want to, were you done with that, or if you wanted to keep going. I didn't actually know that, by the way. I've known you for so long,
Yeah,
and I did not know that
so
that's when
I
you started.
the very first wrestling memory that I have is watching the final, what was it, SmackDown or Sunday Night Heat or whatever it was, in I think like 1999, when they were gearing up for the
I'm sorry, you said Sunday Night Heat. I'm
Sunday
like,
Night
oh
Heat.
right, that was a thing.
That was a thing.
It's like thunder.
Before it was right before Survivor Series. It was Rock, and the main event was going to be Rock, Austin, Triple H, and that was when Austin got hurt, and they did the angle where he gets hit by the car.
Okay.
Which
Wait,
then
was Rikishi?
yes,
Okay.
but
I
he
did it for Rock.
he gets hit by the car, right? He gets hit by the car, but then like because he's out with injury, it's like almost a whole nother year before he comes back, and we find out it was Rikishi. Which
Okay.
like in the moment, there's no fucking way that they were like, it's gonna be Rikishi.
Well, we've booked stuff before, and back when we did backyard wrestling,
Yeah.
we've never been like, we'll just figure it
Yeah,
out.
we'll figure it out later. But no, that's definitely so. So that was the first wrestling memory I have. Is
Mhm.
it was like the last SmackDown or whatever before that match, and Austin was hurt, so I
So,
didn't know it at the time, but
of course, when
yeah.
he gets hurt, you decide to put him in more peril than an actual injury. Just hit him
Yeah.
with a car.
yeah. So like
Wrestling, am I right?
And at the time, right, I'm like 9 or 10 years old, so like I don't know that he's hurt. Like I think he got hit by the car, and that's what took him out of the main event. But that's one of the first memories that I have of, or not one of. That is literally the first memory I have of professional wrestling.
See, I think because with me, my uncle Pete, he would have my brother watch Jake the Snake and Hogan and like old school, back when they had like the rings where they like red, white, and blue ropes
Mhm.
and all that shit.
Yeah.
So my brother said, "Oh, Uncle Pete used to always show me this stuff," because one night, I remember the night, and I'll never forget it. Is that one night, me and my brother were, I guess my family was out having dinner. It was like one of those nights where I guess my sister was supposed to be watching us, but me and my brother just put on Thunder or Nitro, one of those two.
Yeah.
So me and my brother put on Nitro, and I remember exactly who it was, Chavo Guerrero. And back when he had his gimmick where he had the pony on a stick, and he'd ride around in that on Nitro. Yeah. It was one of those things where you sat there and like we laughed at it, like we were like, "Oh, this is ridiculous," but then we kept watching, and then we kept watching more and more, and like I think at a point we eventually got to where I got to, which was Sting and Goldberg, and then it kind of fizzled out where like I knew wrestling and I had wrestling in my head where I enjoyed it, but then I think my first memories of, because it's still around, WWE, was being at like a family event, and they were all watching, like it was like one of my second cousins, like some kind of like party,
Yeah.
and it was Heat, and it was like they advertised Stone Cold, but I remember him not being on the show at all, and I remember it being such a like a taboo or like bad thing. It was like an R-rated movie where like, oh, they curse and this guy gives the finger all the time, and they show women, and it's like that kind of concept of like, as a kid I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be watching this, like I don't think I should be watching this. And I think WCW was less of that because the Attitude Era was kind of fucking shit up as far as, so it was like I think it was right around the time that after the 83 days that Eric Bischoff had, I think at that point, or 83 weeks.
Yeah.
After that, I think that was when I started as far as watching WCW, because it kind of just fell down.
Yeah.
And I saw.
Yeah. Well, like so like that's the thing. Like with me, like that was one of the very first things that I ever watched was leading up to the Survivor Series. That would have been in like 1999, which means my first WrestleMania would have been a few months later. WrestleMania 2000 or 16, which was the Fatal 4-Way with Foley and Big Show, Rock, and
and the thing
so like if you think about it, like at that point, the Attitude Era was really only a few months. Like WCW was really only maybe a year tops away from being bought, because they were bought before I think WrestleMania 17.
Yeah.
So.
And then the it's funny because like our history of wrestling intersects, because for me, I was watching WCW and then kind of watching WWE at that time, and started watching not so much like keeping up with it, because I don't remember watching Raw all the time. Like I would watch it occasionally on Monday. Like I think Raw was the only thing I watched, and then it got to the point where like I was watching Monday Night Raw, SmackDown. I remember every Thursday night I'd watch SmackDown and have Chef Boyardee raviolis, because my dad's like, "Oh yeah, you like those because they're in the commercials or whatever." Because that was a big deal back then. Where it's like Mankind had like advertisements where it was,
and the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, like there was all those kind of things. And I remember the games coming out. I think, and that's the thing with like with us, we were both very video games were a lot of the things that we did, and SmackDown 2, Know Your Role, like all the different games that came up. That I think was more of a concept than keeping up with the show every week. And then it intersects because my sister had to go babysit a kid down the street, and it was Chuck. Chuck was the kid that I met that through wrestling. We would play No Mercy all the time on his N64, because I didn't have an N64. I had a PlayStation 2, a Genesis. So playing with Chuck, we'd play No Mercy, whether it was against each other, where we would do co-op, like we would do that, and then it eventually became you, me, and him, and it was like wrestling games and whatever else we did. So it was like that kind of concept.
Yeah, and just as a random aside, No Mercy was a fantastic wrestling game, and I'm interested to see what the AEW does, because they brought in for their console game, they brought in the original like manager or whatever that made No Mercy.
It's what's it called? Is that Jack Pacific or something like that?
No, like they got the guy.
The original?
Yeah, like the guy who headed up the team to make it. So I'm very interested in that.
Yeah.
Random aside.
I think, but that's perfect. That's a perfect example of like where we started, because then once I think you and me, it was just following wrestling at that point.
Yeah.
And I think gaming is more of an important, and that's like I say, like with in my opinion, it's everything. But wrestling's always been a thing that I love. Now I like talking about it more because it's less of a, you know, oh my god, we're what are they gonna do next week? It's more of like I wonder what they're gonna do with this. Like,
So we talked about how we got into wrestling. So I want to talk a little bit about our how to put it a little bit about where we are and how we got to where we
well,
are.
my first time was,
So
Go
so
ahead.
like so like for me, right? Here's kind of my recent trajectory. The WWE product has grown stale for me,
Mhm.
and had been stale for a while, and so I was a religious watcher every week, and then it became I was a religious watcher of Raw, and I mean this is like I guess I would say like recently, like probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
I wasn't watching SmackDown religiously. It was like I'd watch the highlights, I'd watch Raw, and then within a year it became I would watch it, but I'd like it used to be like I'd be watching it and that was all I was doing, and then it became like I'll watch it, but I'll do other stuff while I'm watching. And then slowly it became I just didn't turn it on at all. So probably about 4 to 5 years ago, I completely turned off of weekly WWE television. I would read about what happens, I would watch YouTube clips of what happens, but I wouldn't actually turn the show on and watch it. Um, I kept I would do the network and now Peacock because I'll watch the monthly pay per views in full, but that's pretty much it.
Perfect.
And at that time,
Perfect.
and I will say at that time I was watching NXT religiously because that was when NXT was like really
The
starting to
Golden
hit
Black?
yeah,
Yeah.
really starting to hit its stride. NXT has since become not watch television for me.
It's 2.0 now.
Yeah, it's become not watch television for me,
I like
and
that
I watch
it's-
AEW.
I like that NXT has become it's NXT 2.0. Like they always have to state it NXT 2.0. And
So you know.
and we'll talk about that more. But
So the reason why I told that side of my story is because I want people to know over the last few years kind of where I've gone to and what I think. And so like right now the only weekly television that is must watch for me is AEW Dynamite.
Okay.
Most of the time I'll watch Rampage, but a lot of times I won't watch it live.
Okay.
I'll watch it like the next day or whatever. I usually don't bother watching Dark or Elevation, unless there's like a specific something.
I watch it all the time. It's what I do on the daily.
Oh.
That's my favorite, actually. I think Elevation and Dark are my favorites.
I might have to check them out.
Just because like I like it. It feels like I guess what it would be like for you with NXT, where it's just like seeing the new people. And
Like
it's-
if I hear something was like really good, like I'll
Yeah.
I'll seek it out and
and
watch
we'll,
it.
We'll talk about that when we get into this last year, 2021.
So that's kind of where my last few years have taken
Yeah.
me. So tell your side of the story
Very different.
because you were completely out.
Very different. I was very out. I was super out. And you know what? And I know exactly why the reason I was out. I'm gonna take.
It was Edge, right? Edge retired, and you were like, I can't take this
I was
anymore.
like, neck injury, no. So this is the thing for me. Okay, I want to say, and it's funny you said Edge because around the time that Edge and Cena were trading the titles back and forth, that's when I started to get bored of it. I started to be like, they're just doing the same shit. Or if it was like John Cena and Orton, and it's just like,
Oh
yeah,
John Cena and Orton was a big one.
yeah,
Oh my
and
god.
they still do it
Oh
today.
my god.
Listen, and that's the thing when you were doing your whole thing of like, oh, I only watch AEW. I was like, let's just get it out of the way. We're both AEW fanboys now because we're older. I feel
Yeah.
like the concept, and we went to CZW shows.
Mhm.
I loved that. That was the feeling that I got from watching AEW. I want to give I mean when we do episodes, I want to give WWE a chance. So I'll go over what they've done and be like whether it was bad or good.
Yeah, see here's how I explain it to people when they ask me. I say I have fun watching AEW But when I if I were to try to watch Raw or SmackDown, I don't have fun watching the shows. I feel like it's a chore. I feel like being a viewer, being a longtime viewer, um, there's no benefit to being a longtime viewer. Things change so often, and or they do whatever they like. There's no like, oh, good job for like being here through
Yeah.
this ride or whatever.
There's no real payoff to their stories.
That's the word I'm looking for. Payoff.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing I was gonna say, where it's like with AEW's like Viagra, where it's just like the thrill is gone, but AEW brings it back. You're like, yeah, I have fun. You know, I get turned on watching AEW.
You heard it here first, folks. He
Oh my God, Orange Cassidy. Whew.
He's like, oh my God, Orange Cassidy.
Whew.
Forget about it if he sees that Jungle Boy.
So I said looking. So
Looking.
listen.
Or if that Luchasaurus sticks out his tongue. He's got a long tongue.
Giving me the vapors. So listen. My point was that what I was saying with when I was out. We were back to when I was out. I was out around that point. Rated R Superstar. He started that. That was nice. It was refreshing. Like now watching it, going back, it's refreshing to watch Rated R Superstar stuff. But the trading back and forth, you know, doing a different stipulation every kind of month, that kind of got stale real quickly. And for, you know, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'll have Kibbles toot it for me. Kibbles, who was one of the first backer of CM Punk?
Who was? Oh, you mean
out
from
of our
friends
friends?
group?
Out of our
friends
friends.
group. It was probably you.
Thank you. That is correct, Senator. That was.
I thought, yeah. I remember when he started, I was like, this guy's kind of cool, but I don't quite get him.
From his first promo, I was like, I like this dude. His first ECW promo I saw, I was like, this guy's awesome. Like I was like, this guy's cool. Like this. I was like, yeah, this guy's like someone I want to watch.
I think I got more into him. I think I got more into him with twofold, right? So like, I think I got more into him because I didn't really know who he was, and then around that time was when we started finding independent wrestling a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so I saw some of his stuff in ROH, which is what made me like him more as a professional wrestler. And then also, then like that got turned up twofold when he went heel and did the whole like straight edge society thing.
Yeah.
That is like I was like, oh yeah, I really like CM Punk. And then he started doing that stuff, and I was like, oh my God, CM Punk's fucking awesome.
Yeah. And that was the thing where like, excuse me. And I was like, you know, I could name names with people in our friends group that were like trying to tell me about the Ring of Honor stuff. I'm like, I don't care. I liked him from the beginning when I saw him in ECW, and I've followed him since then. I'm not gonna act like I'm like, oh yeah, I've been watching him from since I went to every one of his shows. Like that's not the case. When I saw him on ECW, I'm like, I like this guy. I want to keep watching him. The fucking Kelly thing with Mike Knox is stupid, but I liked that concept of who he was. Straight edge was the first term that I heard from that promo. And I'm like, that's what I want to be. I want to be straight edge. So that was the thing. So pretty much when he left with that title or left the company, whatever the way you want to say it, when he did the pipe bomb, all that other shit, when he left, that's when I kind of gave up. I was like,
oh, you mean when he, after the one Royal Rumble, when he was like, I'm leaving.
Yeah. And
did you ever listen to that podcast?
Which one?
With Cole Cabana?
Not the Cole Cabana one, though.
Oh, dude.
I saw the one with
How did you not?
I've seen it, but then I mean sometimes I have to watch it at home because a lot of like I said, Elevation and Dark, I watch at work because I don't need sound. I can just watch them wrestle.
Gotcha.
Taz will say something silly, just keep moving like that's
okay.
But
oh man, the Cole Cabana one where like he goes into all the reasons why he left WWE and all that is like
I think I've
like
heard a little bit and then I couldn't
amazing.
finish the rest.
Oh my God, dude, it's something that like is an interesting enough listen that I've listened to it more than once. Like there was a time where I was like, I need something to listen to, and like nobody else had put out a new like I'd listened to all the new stuff of the podcasts I listened to, and I actively was like, I'll just put this on, like because I wasn't paying 100% attention. I just needed something in the background.
But you like to hear it,
yeah.
So he would be the main reason why I've been in wrestling. I've always loved Kane growing up. I remember following him back at the.
gotta be Kane.
Yeah, I remember following him when in. See, for me, it's just like I think it's the concept of being the loner kid, and like loving Sting, loving the guy who doesn't talk much and just beats the shit out of people. That being the quiet Jason Voorhees just running through people kind of concept. It's like that kind of thing I loved, and then CM Punk was nice because he just was a good wrestler. I just loved the fact that he was a good wrestler, and that kind of concept.
So would you say your favorite version of Kane is Corporate Kane?
No, my favorite version of Kane was when.
Are you even aware of Corporate Kane?
Yeah, I'm very aware of Corporate Kane. My favorite version of Kane is when he was tagged up with X-Pac. That's my favorite storyline, and then Tori backstabbed him, and then he needed to get revenge on. I remember him fucking pile driving Tori, and I'm like, that's like in my head as a kid, like that's what that bitch deserves. You fucking fucking backstabbed him, fucking beat the shit out of that motherfucker. Like
So I did really like that. Another Kane storyline that I was a big fan of was when when Triple H beat him, he had to take the mask off, and then he was like crazy. Like they had him come out in he would come out with like security guards, like
is that with
and
the
like
black towel
chained
over
up.
his head?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was chained up like Hannibal Lecter and shit.
That was somewhat my loss of interest when he took off his mask because I was like, I don't really care anymore. But
I liked where they went with it. Like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he just went like way darker. He like chokeslammed Derek Bischoff off the stage and shit.
We don't talk about Katie Vick because that one's just awkward and weird.
That is one of the worst, if not the worst.
It's one of the
thing
worst
I've ever watched.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and yeah, that was pretty terrible.
That was one of those things I was like, I can't believe they're like
the worst
getting away with putting this on TV.
The worst part was that I read the book, the fake novelization, and they mentioned her in that, and I'm like, why? Why would you still have her in
fake
this?
WWE thing?
Yeah. Trying to build lore like fucking wrestling fans read. Fucking idiots.
I read a lot.
Oh, sorry.
Speaking of which, John Moxley's book is pretty good.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
You can read?
Fuck you.
I mean, like in general, I can't. I don't know how to read. I just see that when they show the match card, I just see the people. I'm like, oh, Adam Cole must be fighting Orange Cassidy this week.
That's what that Adam Cole guy looks like.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. But yeah, so CM Punk was the main reason why I left, and then guess what? CM Punk's the main reason why I came back. I think. When I had rumors that he was going to be coming back, I'm like, I've been following him for everything, like even through this awful UFC career. I'm like, dude,
same.
Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, come on.
So here's the thing about the UFC career. People, like, so many people were like, oh yeah, he got in there, he got fucked up, blah blah blah. And like, my thing is, I was like, okay, yeah, but he had the he had the balls to get in there and do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
He also had the mindset to say. He had the mindset to say that it was something he was interested in and something he wanted to go after, so he went after it. It's not like he was like, oh yeah, it'd be really cool if I did it. I'm going to sit on my couch and do nothing and like wish that I had. No, he got his ass up off the couch and he did shit.
No, of course.
So like, I have like Matt, like I'm like, I understand like, yeah, he got his ass kicked. He shouldn't have been in like UFC, but like, he had the ambition and drive and he went for it. And that's like what my connection to him is. The second thing is a lot of people have complaints about like he shouldn't have been in UFC. Like he didn't do what other UFC fighters do, like having to fight through prelims and having to fight through like smaller, like, you know, and build up his reputation and all that. And I'm like, yeah, that's not his fault. That's like, if you got a problem, like your problem's not with CM Punk, your problem's with Dana White, who signed him and said, I'm going to put him, because Dana White said, oh, dollar signs. Dana White doesn't care that people... Dana White doesn't care that people come and fight through the league. Like, he's going to do whatever makes the most money.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, too, where I was...
Like, people were like, blaming Punk for that almost, and I'm like, your problem's with Dana White.
Well, the concept of, like, it reminds me of the joke from Key and Peele, where he's like, and I said, bitch. And but he said that, like, you said he got his ass beat, but he did it. Like, he went in there and did it. Like, exactly what you said. It's just like, he did do it, though.
Yeah.
So I think it's like
Do,
the
do I
concept.
wish he hadn't gotten his ass beat? Absolutely.
It wasn't for him, but
Yeah.
he did it.
But yeah,
Like I would say like, oh, that's not your thing, but you did it.
yeah.
So it's just like
Like,
that concept.
and it's okay, and that's like another thing. Like, it's okay to be like, I am really interested in this. I'm gonna go after this, and if it's not for me, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Like I went after like writing a book, and I was like, this is my goal. I'm gonna do it, and like when I'm done it, I'm gonna evaluate and say, do I like this enough that I would do this again? And like if the answer is no, the answer is no. But like I'm still gonna put my mindset and put my money
Exactly.
and put my effort into doing it.
I think, I mean, I think with both of us, both being fans of him, it's you
Well,
want him
that's
to do
the thing.
good,
Yeah.
but I don't think we saw it going well. And even I, before the match, any of the matches started, I was like, this isn't gonna go well.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
But it's whatever, and he did it, and he's back. AEW was the one company to be like, he to open his eyes to be like, I might enjoy it being here, and it's just was Brody Lee this year or 2021?
2022 or 2020.
2020 he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah, because this year was the 1 year anniversary.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I mean, let's getting into that. I've explained the concept of what got me back, or
It was
what
CM
got me
Punk.
out. Yeah.
I texted you and I was like, "Hey, they're doing this show in Chicago, and
Yeah.
Darby Allin just said best in the world, and the
That
crowd
is
is
true.
chanting CM
That is
Punk."
true. You have been. You were very.
And I was like, "I think CM Punk's showing up, dude.
Yeah, and then I started checking it out when you said something. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like,
I think CM Punk's showing up."
because it's very much.
And he did,
It's
and it was awesome.
It's very much like a. No, they're not gonna. They're not. Gonna
That was
do
one of the
this.
coolest. That was one of the coolest things ever. Was
That-
him coming back in
What an
in
emotional
Chicago. Like
Whether
them
you're watching
starting
it
the
or
show.
there, it was an emotional fucking night.
it was very interesting because I watched it with Sabrina, who like
So she didn't understand. why you
doesn't
were
know
crying.
anything. Yeah. I was like, "This is so cool! Look at the audience!" And she's just like, "I don't get it."
Yeah. Well, no, because like.
Well
when
now she like kind of gets it because like CM Punk is like one of her like she likes Punk.
Yeah.
Her favorites are Punk. No.
Oh, okay.
Her favorites are Punk.
Sorry, I pointed to my Britt Baker shirt.
Her
Orange
favorite
Cassidy. She said
Orange
she liked.
Cassidy.
And Cheetah.
Cheetah.
I remember there's a female she mentioned that
Yeah,
I'm like,
Cheetah
she
is
likes
her
a
favorite.
female, and I can't remember who it was. I thought it was Britt
Which
Baker.
now we're all sad because she's going back to
Yeah,
Japan
Japan.
for a while.
But-
And her favorite tag team is Jurassic Express.
Good choice. Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
She doesn't get the Zero Miera thing.
let's explain. Let's talk a little bit about that, because that night I watch it again over and over again.
Oh,
And
I would watch it.
That is.
Did you see on YouTube? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you
No,
off.
it's fine.
Did you see on YouTube? There's a video of it from the production truck
No.
where the production guy is like, "Oh, pan over to this person. Oh, cut the camera 2, cut the camera 3,
Get that
zoom
guy
out
crying.
do this thing." Yeah. Oh, dude, it's
Get the guy
so
crying,
cool.
reaching his hand out like, oh my god, like
Dude,
you-
it's so
it's
cool.
like it was like the equivalent of like the Beatles or a Beyonce concert where people are just crying in the audience. They're like, I wish I
Yeah.
could touch you, like that kind of weird like fucking like Elvis like fame where they're like, oh my god, and, like
Yeah.
screaming. The one guy like that's what I'm saying. Like when you go back and watch it, the audience gets me. Just their reaction. It's just like
Yeah. Well, that's why I still go back and I'll sometimes rewatch Money in the Bank when he's in Chicago and he
okay.
wins the title
Okay.
from
yeah.
from Cena because it has the same like feel.
That-
Yeah, and JR's or was it the King? Whoever was the commentator like described it like perfectly. They were like, the only way in Chicago you would get this kind of reaction in another sport is like if the Chicago Bears were in the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl was in fucking Chicago. Like this is the type of
Yeah.
reaction you would get.
That pop. Oh, that's the biggest thing for me. That pop. The pop for CM Punk for AEW. That is fucking. When that music hits, it's fucking crazy. That's what
Yeah.
gets me every time too. I'm like, I get emotional. That's like, that is the equivalent of the Portal scene in Endgame. Like that.
Mhm.
That shit I could watch over and over again and cry every time. I'm like, it gets me.
Yeah.
It's such a, and it's the same concept too. It's such a long wait to wait for what it was.
Yeah.
It's
I
such a
also-
build up.
I also like that AEW seems to have this thing with the fans that WWE has never had. Um, except for I guess Bobby Roode was the only one who ever really had it. Was like where the audience will sing like the song.
Yeah.
Because like they do that with Cult of Personality, they do it with Jurassic Express.
Do you think they
They
did
do
that?
it with Judas.
Do you think they did that back with WWE when CM Punk was in it? People were singing
No,
that song.
I don't think so.
You don't think people?
I don't ever. Well, if they were, it was never loud enough to be audible.
Yeah.
I don't think people were. I mean, maybe some people were, but it wasn't like I'm going to yell it and sing along with
Yeah.
the song as part of the.
Yeah. So yeah.
It was definitely not to that level.
CM Punk is just like I was saying, like when it comes to that, like the equivalent of all of the build up for some MCU to have all these people shown over time, and then have everyone just show up as the group. Like you want the Avengers to show up. That's the Avengers. Everybody. It's the same equivalent to CM Punk being gone for so long and being like, this will never happen again. Because like it's the concept of it will never happen again for him to come back. Like you're like 7 years is like he's done. He's not coming back.
Yeah, it's long enough to essentially be like, yeah, he's not coming back.
But then fucking living color come on and you're like, what the fuck? That is like the highlight of.
And I think one of the best things that AEW did was make it known that CM Punk was going to be there without saying CM Punk is going to be there. Like at no point were they like CM Punk's going to be here. Like they didn't mention it. They didn't talk about it. They said nothing. They said nothing official.
They hinted at it.
But they were like, "Oh yeah, here's we're going to Chicago." And then they have Darby Allin say like, "I'm the best in the world." And like it's they did just enough for the world to know CM Punk was going to be there.
Yeah. Who was Darby Allin fighting at the time before?
2.0 and Garcia.
Okay. So that was the guy that they mentioned when is that what he mentioned when he said he was best in the world? Like he was
he said something along the lines of like, I'm going to Chicago, or I'm going to be there in Chicago, and I'm the best in the world, or whatever.
Blatantly like, okay.
Oh no, it was blatant, but like they were. It was just amazing that they were like, we're gonna market it as if it's blatantly obvious, but like we're not gonna actually say CM Punk.
Yeah, it's like a teasing without actually saying it at all.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I get
Which
that.
I think was an amazing marketing ploy because you got everybody talking about. Because like at first you get everybody talking about like, is he gonna be there? Is he not gonna be there? And then like you sprinkle in just enough that everybody's like, no, he's fucking gonna be there.
Yeah.
And without saying he's gonna be there, I think just makes it cooler than like watching the show being like, okay.
Yeah,
I know CM Punk's gonna be here.
Yeah,
what it is it felt like they achieved in making everyone feel like they were in on what was going to happen, without like you felt like you were in the know.
Yeah,
but like they were obviously playing
or it was like they
you were in the
teased it,
know.
and you're like, if this doesn't happen, it's gonna be very disappointing. But if it does, it's gonna be fucking crazy.
Right. They played it well enough that they didn't advertise it right out, so you can't say with 100% certainty. Yeah. But they did enough that you felt like you were backstage in the know enough to know he was going to be there.
Also, the fact that with anybody else, it would have been like, oh yeah, this could be something that's happening. But the fact that 7-year period, it's just like this might not happen. Like it's hard to believe to think that this guy who's been gone for 7 years will come back.
Oh, I figured it was not happening.
Yeah.
I figured if he ever did come back, it would be for a one-off thing. I didn't ever think he would ever...
It's like, I explained this in my opinion with Bones, when he says stuff on rumors for the MCU. It's just like, I want to wait and see if it does happen. And I was waiting for that night in August where it's just like, no, he's not going to show. And then like he did, it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's crazy.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. This was Kibbles and Pookie the Wolf. We're talking about everything professional wrestling. In this episode, we talked about how we got into wrestling and where we are with it now. And next time, we're going to be talking about 2021.
Yes, and don't forget to, if you're watching on YouTube, on my channel, Pookie the Wolf, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you're watching, or I guess listening on Beansprout,
or whatever podcast area you listen,
find your podcasts, then make sure to at least give us a review, or just comment on something. Let us know that you like it or you don't like it.
Yeah. And
say
if you're thinking about giving us less than 5 stars, just don't post anything then.
yeah. Don't do it unless you have if you know what the saying is. If you if you have nothing to say, don't say it at all.
That's not the same.
Yeah, it is.
If you have nothing nice to say,
Oh, right. Right, yeah. That's it. All right, we're good.
If the Fortnite Earth is flat, then the real Earth is flat too.
Yeah, that's sound logic right there.
That sound logic.
I don't know who I said it to, but I think it was you. I don't remember, but I said, watch. There, that guy right there with the mask on. I bet you it's gonna be the people's champ, The Rock. And fucking wouldn't you know it, I was fucking right there.